What's up guys, how you all doing? We'll paint the face now and we're going to do it in quite a cold white colour and... wait a minute. What's up? Oh, not again.
I want to quickly sketch those Frisian cows in before they move away, as I love the contrast there between the black and the white. White! White! Like the white noise that plays ping-pong inside my skull. White! Like the pallid face of death. White! 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 Like Simon Cowell's trousers. White! Like the bleached bones of your long-dead lover, Teddy Pumpkin.
Sorry about that, I've no idea why that keeps happening. It's freaking me out. Where was I? Ah yes, cold white. So we're going to start off with some Games Workshop Celestra Grey, and to that we'll mix in a bit of black to darken it down, and then a bit of blue ink from the Scale 75 Inktensity range as well. That gives us a really nice blue-grey to use as a base colour, and we're just going to paint that onto the face. Now I'm going to leave the eye sockets black so that we don't need to shade them later on, so just be careful that you don't put the paint into the eye sockets. Alright, for our first highlight we'll mix a little bit of white into our base colour, and we'll apply that to all the usual suspects when painting faces. So the cheekbones, the nose, the chin, the upper lip, the forehead, and the ears. And I'm going to apply this over a couple of layers, trying to build up a transition by pulling the paint to where I want a highlight until that area is quite opaque. So we'll mix some more white in there and we're going to add a little water so it's like a thick glaze consistency, and then we're going to use that to try and soften out the forehead. So I'm using stippling here to apply lots of little dots around the middle area just to give it some texture, and I'm also trying to soften out those two quite harsh recessed shadows by adding some of the dots over the top just so that the shadow is not as severe. Looking okay now. For the next highlights I'm going to use the same colour but with a slightly thicker paint consistency, and I'll do these in the normal way, just letting the colour pool a little on the surface where I want it. I'm being pretty careful not to lose the highlights from the last step, so I'm taking my time here and trying hard to paint with the very tip of the brush so that I don't obscure any details. On the cheekbones, I always try and pull the paint towards the front of the face so it's strongest just underneath the eye at the side of the nose. So I had a little bit too much paint on the upper eyelid there. So what I'll do is grab a second clean brush and then use the tip to draw the edge of the paint away to the side so we still have a decent blend there. If I just left that to dry as is, it would look like a blob of paint instead of like a transition between two colours. So it's always good to have a second brush handy to fix any mistakes or to help to blend something that didn't quite go to plan. I usually have the second brush held in my mouth so that I can grab it really quickly if and when I need it. You can see I do the same again on the earlobe here. There was just a bit too much paint, so I'll use a second brush just to draw out that edge. On the forehead, I'm using little dots again to highlight that area around the eyebrow. So when I'm doing this, I try to visualise a little triangle and I place my dots inside that shape. So I want the highlights to be strongest just on the top of the eyebrow, applying more dots as I reach that part of the model. The more dots you apply, the stronger the highlight is going to be. Mix a little more white into your paint and we'll go back for another round of highlights. The paint is quite bright now, so I'm trying to keep the highlights really small and sharp, or at least that's what I'm trying to do. For the last highlight, we'll just use pure white, which we won't bother thinning down. Just be careful to keep these as small as possible because the paint isn't thinned, so they'll go on very bright, so you do need to be a little careful when you're applying these, as it's all too easy to make the highlights too big, which would lose the work that you've been building up over the last few steps, and you don't want that. The final step is to take some of that blue ink and we'll add a bit of black to it and then just thin it down with some water, and we're going to use that as a glaze. So we're going to glaze up to the side of the face, pushing the pigment up so that it gathers just underneath the cheekbone. And we're just going to build that up over a few layers, letting it dry each time until we like the way it looks. Thank you very much for your support. Stay tuned for more videos coming soon. Thanks again. Bye for now.